My friend, Nata the Scribe on Twitter, CBSSports.com. He helps out Gary Parrish and Matt Norlander on the Eye on College Basketball podcast. I have various things to discuss with you that run the gamut of pro and college basketball. But I hope all is well in your world. I know it was a time not that long ago where your dog ran away. How's everything with the dog?
The dog is actually looking at me right now like, are we going outside anytime soon? To which I have to look back at him and say, no, not yet. There's still some work to be done.
All right. Last night, you and I share a love of a lot of things, including the Mets. And I'm going to I'm going to relate what I saw last night to a Mets legend. Luka Doncic will never play a road game in Dallas for the rest of his career. Were they not the home team last night?
Yeah. So are you about to call Luka Doncic Chipper Jones?
No. It's not Chipper Jones. He's Tom Seaver. When I was there. Yeah. It was my 11th birthday when Seaver returned in 1977. I just told the world how old I am. Seaver on August 21st, 1977, on my 11th birthday, I was at Shea Stadium. We were at Shea a lot. Tickets were dirt cheap back in the day because nobody wanted to go. And Seaver returns for the first time with the Cincinnati Reds, and he was the home team. They were not rooting for the Mets that day. They were rooting for Tom Seaver. He got a standing ovation, got out of a jam in like the second inning, and the place went nuts. It really was like watching, like I thought I was at Riverfront Stadium. Luka Doncic is never going to play a road game there.
No, nor should he. But at this point, like, I just feel bad for the only person I kind of feel bad for is Nico Harrison, because me and you have had this conversation before.
Yeah.
I don't think it was really his idea. I think it was Patrick Dumont's idea. I still believe that because there's no way that you credible as a basketball executive trying to make your bones after you've been successful at Nike and doing all these things and you've done all these brilliant ideas, and then then your big basketball idea is we're going to trade Luka Doncic for pennies on the dollar and think that everything is going to be okay. That doesn't sound like the idea of a smart person. That sounds like the idea of someone's boss that just comes in, swoops in, sees the number sheet, and says we need to cut salary somewhere. That's what it looks like to me, and it still looks like that to me.
It like really? This looks like a money saving deal?
This looks like ownership, like the money is saying, yo, we have to do this, not a basketball, hey, this might be a good idea if we did this.
Why would you do it there? Why wouldn't you do it by trading Kyrie or somebody else?
I don't know.
That doesn't make – that's just crazy to me.
Adam, we're not dealing with smart people here. It's very obvious. They've been trying to lie to us about this whole thing the whole time. Like, none of this has been operated by people who appear to be smart. That's the thing I keep trying. That's my overall point. The money is generally not very smart. This sounds like a money decision.
So why doesn't Nico Harrison resign?
That is a good question.
He can't have his name on this.
And it's too late now. He should have resigned. Like, he should have resigned a long time ago.
But again, gosh.
Yes.
Well, here's the other thing about it. Nata Edwards is joining us here at Nata the Scribe on Twitter. All right, so the game in L.A., when Nico Harrison made the, idiotic mistake of actually being in attendance for it, and there were times where Luka was apparently staring him down after. I think he had a triple-double that night. I thought he would pull off a triple-double last night. I didn't realize he was simply going to try and score all of the points against his former team. But to me, there had to be a problem between Harrison and Doncic. There have been too many stories that have just mysteriously been floated out, like the one we saw 2 days ago, I guess, with Sam Amick, where, they wanted Luka to travel on the road. He was still working his way back, and he wanted to rehab on the road with the team, and Luka chose instead to stay back in Dallas. What's the purpose of that story other than to paint Luka as an unwilling, I guess, rehabber?
I think again, we're not dealing with smart people, Adam.
Okay.
We're dealing with people that are trying to say, hey, Kool-Aid, and hopefully they see somebody looking over there at the Kool-Aid instead of looking at, the idiot that's yelling, hey, Kool-Aid. That's what they're looking for. Unfortunately, all these stories do is make it look worse, because if he was this problem, why didn't you trade him this summer? And you probably would have gotten more for him rather than trade him in the dead of winter where nobody sees it coming, and then you trade him to the premier franchise in all of the NBA. All you do is fuel the conspiracy theories. All you fuel is this thing that you're basically a clown show, and the only thing that you care about is building this new stadium with this casino in it.
That's right. And so this was floated in a staff meeting today. Our friend Tim Donnelly, who does the show here after me, said that he actually now believes the theory that it was the ownership trying to tank the franchise so they can threaten to move to Las Vegas if Texas doesn't advance sports wagering. Does that make any sense to you?
It does in one aspect, but it doesn't, because I already think that Las Vegas franchise has already been earmarked for new money.
For LeBron.
For LeBron, but also remember, you think about it like this. That is $3 billion in an expansion fee that someone is going to have to pay. If Dallas moves, that's not $3 billion or whatever the expansion fee in the ownership's pockets. That they're going to, again. So as much as we would like to think that Dallas is going to move to Las Vegas, there are 29 other owners that are looking for a nice little payday out of whoever decides to buy that franchise that are going to block that move. That's why I don't necessarily believe that. But I do believe that it's a standard amount of incompetence, along with they want to get that casino built in Dallas at this point.
Yeah, the Mavericks are not leaving Dallas. There's zero chance of that. Ownership will not let them move. Again, you're right. It's going to be an expansion team in Las Vegas anyway when the time is right. It is interesting that the NBA, which has probably invested more in the city of Las Vegas than any of the other leagues, will be the fourth team ultimately to get there. Even baseball, well, it's going to take till 28 for baseball to get there. But even baseball,
if they ever make it there. It's a
very good point. It's a very good point. It is, A, it is the Athletics, and B, it is Major League Baseball, which loves to shoot themselves in the foot. Nata Edwards is joining us here on the Adam Gold Show. Who is the most dangerous team outside of Oklahoma City in the Western Conference?
It's the Clippers. Easily. The Clippers are, again, Kawhi is healthy.
Yeah.
Equally healthy. We're talking about a team that knows what they're doing, that's not going to be as reliant on James Harden, because we know what James Harden in the playoffs do. It's not a great combination. There's enough guys, and I trust that I trust them enough to do enough damage to where they're going to give the first round and maybe even OKC all they want and much, much more. Like, we may end up heading towards an all-LA Western Conference final. That's how, we may be headed that way.
Yeah.
They're that dangerous at this point.
By the way, Kawhi Leonard, I'm going to pat myself in the back here. One of the great free agent pickups in fantasy NBA basketball history.
Whoa. No. You have to explain that one.
He wasn't drafted.
How?
Well, we only have 17 teams in the league and rosters that are like 16 deep. So somehow Kawhi Leonard wasn't drafted, and I picked him up as a free agent. I'm just saying. I didn't draft him either, Kanata.
You ought to be arrested. You ought to be arrested for grand theft larceny. That's what that is.
Yeah.
That's grand theft larceny.
I'm not.
Why are you admitting to crimes on air? Why are you admitting to crimes, Adam?
Hey,
again,
I didn't draft him
either. We've
either.
been friends for how long now? No, but again, we've been friends for how long? You out here admitting to crimes on the air. Don't do that.
My son who's in the league busts my chops. Busts my chops because I'd like the 16th pick in the first round, and I picked Scotty Barnes with my first pick. He busts my chop for picking Scotty Barnes, but I did acquire via free agent Kawhi Leonard. All right, let me flip this over to college basketball. We've seen Carolina roster, ins and outs. I think they are absolutely a net positive by a lot.
Yes.
State is right now probably a net neutral, but we assume that Will Wade will do very well there. We know that Flagg and Knipple and Malawach are gone from Duke. They should be. They will be. Yeah. But there is a backcourt logjam right now, and they haven't even talked about what may or may not come out of the portal to Duke. But you've got Tyrese Proctor, who I assume will go, but certainly wasn't fantastic in the national semifinal, which might dampen things a little bit. You've got Proctor, you've got Evans, you've got Caleb Foster, Darren Harris, who, barely played, but we know he can shoot. What do you think happens just at that position?
I think Proctor's gone. I think Proctor and maybe Foster are gone. But honestly, Caleb Foster showed so much in the second half, towards the latter half of the season, where, that might be your starting point guard.
Right.
He's done enough to where he's justified being your starting point guard. I don't think Evans leaves because let me rephrase that. Let me see what happens in Chicago. If he gets a good report, we're definitely drafting you in the back first half of the first round, then I can see him gone. But at the same point, if he's a second rounder, as we've seen with a whole bunch of other guys at this point, they're much more likely to play the portal and or stay because there's more money in college than there is in the second round of the NBA right now. I think Evans is probably going to be back. It wouldn't surprise me if he got a little bit of a pay raise. And then I think that team is going to be so loaded, it's not necessarily going to matter. I do wonder, though. I do believe that Proctor is gone, and if not, I think Scheyer is going to have the hard conversation like he had to have with Jeremy Roach that, hey, buddy, there's not really a spot for you here anymore.
Yeah, there's you've got Caden Boozer coming in. He's is he a point guard? Is he going to be a?
Not really. Right? He's more of a 2.
Okay, so you've got him. You've got Foster. You've got Evans. I would like to see Evans do something other than shoot it as soon as he touches it, right? Which he basically that was really what he was great. He's great at shooting, so I get why you shoot. And then you've got Darren. So there's a lot of sameness there. And you're right, Caleb Foster might be the most suited to just be the point guard. But I also think that Duke learned something about what happened against Houston. Having a guard who can get wherever he wants with the ball, which Duke did not have at all times. L.J. Cryer was able to get inside Duke's defense. And they missed that. They would have had to deal with that with Walter Clayton Jr. If they had gotten to the national championship game on Monday night. That was the one element that I thought that they missed all year long. Sion James ended up being okay at it, but he was not great at it, and he wasn't great on Saturday night anyway, so it didn't really matter whether he was good at it or not. He wasn't good on Saturday. So I think that's an element that, not everybody has to be 6'8" for Duke.
No, not everybody needs to be 6'8", but I think, honestly, the biggest improvement that Duke can take is, honestly, Jon Scheyer being better in the moment.
Yeah.
Let's be honest with ourselves here. The minute that Sion James messed that first inbound pass up, Cooper Flagg should have been inbounding the ball.
Or Con Knipple.
Or Con Knipple, or someone other than Sion James. As soon as that happens, you can't allow that. And there have been times in this season where Jon Scheyer has been the reason that they didn't play for the national title. There have been games where Jon Scheyer's coaching or lack thereof has cost them. So it's going to be a lot of, again, the biggest improvement that they can have is self-scouting. Because, quite honestly, I don't think the guard that you're describing right now is currently in the portal, unless you're talking about going to get Ian Jackson, which would be utterly hilarious for a whole set of reasons.
But I don't even think Ian Jackson is that.
I do because he'd have a lot more space. I do think that I do believe that Ian Jackson in an offense where there are going to be a lot of guards around him that can shoot, which is something that really didn't exist in Chapel Hill this year, is a much different player. Unfortunately, it looks like he's going to St. John's. I would love to see Ian Jackson in Stores, even though I think that's an extinction level event because I don't think they lose at that point. But for the most part, I do think that like a lot of what Duke needs is self-scouting worthy, and more importantly, I think the guard that you're describing isn't in the portal unless you think Terrence Arsenault is that guy, and I'm not sure he is either.
Nata Edwards is joining us here, Nata the Scribe on Twitter, because I had a whole list of things that John Scheyer needed to do better. No bench usage at all, really, in the second half, except Malik Brown and Kaman Malawach. And the truth is that the cameo for Mason Gillis in the second half backfired. I thought they took the air out of the ball of the game too soon. Way
too soon.
I mean, 6 minutes left in the game, and you're playing to shorten the game. At this point, I mean, just keep playing. Things were going well. If it's going well, I'm not sure why you stop it. And even though Houston had eaten into the lead a little bit, I mean, Houston doesn't want to play fast. They're happy playing slow.
That's the thing that trips me up about it the most.
They're the slowest team in the league.
They're slowing it down, and then you're playing right into Houston's hands the whole time because you're playing scared. You're playing not to lose instead of playing to win. And that is, at the end of the day, that is a coaching decision. And if you are coaching scared, then it's no surprise that the players are, playing scared.
Yeah, and I think, you brought it up, and I said it too, and I said it, I put it on Twitter during this whole sequence. Sion James, whether he's good at inbounding the ball or not, and I think he was their guy to inbound the ball in tight situations all throughout the year. So it doesn't matter whether or not he was that guy. He wasn't that guy on Saturday night.
In that moment.
Yeah. And you could tell he was too tentative. There were plenty of opportunities to throw a bounce pass where only Knipple could go get it, and they never did it. It was like he was waiting for, I need to see him wide open before I can deliver the ball. And the one time he did try to throw a contested in, the two times, one, it was knocked out of bounds off Houston, and the other was woefully short, and Flagg had no chance to get it. It was the turnover that ultimately led, I guess, to the missed three and then the dunk. The other thing is, and this is not anything you could really coach. This is what happens during the game with a team like Houston. They got crushed on the offensive boards. Cougars were 18.
Houston crushes everybody,
right.
Though. Houston crushes everybody on the boards. That's something that you can't necessarily coach around, but you can absolutely adjust to the feel of the game. And granted, this is Scheyer's third year. I understand that there's got to be a game feel to all of this, and that's going to be developed. But if you're talking about being a national championship contender, you kind of have to learn on the fly. And there were times where Scheyer could have learned on the fly, learned from his mistakes a little bit better, and he didn't. And unfortunately, that's why they didn't play Florida for the title.
And they would have beaten Florida, right? I'm just kidding.
They'd have walked away from that. They would have, I think Duke wins that in a walk. In fact, that's what I had. I was hoping to see Duke and Florida, and I think Duke would have walked away with this because I do think that the length would have eventually gotten to, that was a Mason Gillis game. That was much more of a Malik Brown game. I do think Elijah Martin is neutralized in the game against Florida, in the game against Duke. I do wonder if Alex Condon does anything against Kaman Malawach and Patrick Gongba. Those kind of matchups, I think, were tailor-made for Duke to dominate and run away with the title.
Nata Edwards, at Nata the Scribe on Twitter, college basketball and NBA analyst. It says that on the screen. I think that's a wonderful thing to write there. Just a general great human being as well, and a dog owner. Take the dog out. I'll
try. I'll try. He's looking at me even more like he's looking very, very sad. I'll send you a picture shortly.
Thank you very much, my man. I'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely. Talk to you soon.